This is weird. I'm not really sure how to go about this. I don't even know what this is. I'm in an impasse in my artistic career. God, it's the damnedest thing. You turn one of these things on and you're dumb, deaf, and blind. I'm basically starting this because I don't have the slightest idea what else to do in this studio. I'll tell you this much, I need to turn this fan on. Plus, we bought this camera. I tried to use it for porn with my wife, but she didn't want to do that. So I guess I need to find another use for this. So somehow this has got to turn into art. Tell you this much, I've always been self-conscious in front of cameras of any kind. So if anything, this will be almost a, I wouldn't say a learning experience, but a coming to terms experience. By the way, I don't smoke. I know that sounds ridiculous now. I've actually quit smoking twice. Last time was when I was backpacking through Europe after I graduated from getting my bachelor's degree from, where the hell did I go to school? University of New Mexico in Albuquerque, Wyoming. I got a Bachelor of Arts in Fine Arts and Art Studio. Not sure what to make of that, actually. Back to the smoking. I quit the second time in Prague, Czechoslovakia, because I had run out of all the American cigarettes that I had brought with me. And the European cigarettes that I had run into over there, not too surprisingly, the Marlboro cigarettes that I ran into were certainly not the Marlboro cigarettes that I was buying in the United States. More specifically, they tasted like rolled up cow shit. So, to be honest with you, after a period of time, I just kind of forgot to smoke, which is kind of funny because I've always smoked when I'm drinking, and certainly did my share of drinking while I was over there, and kind of forgot to smoke. Trip to Europe was very interesting. When I originally had left to go to Europe was after, of course, like I told you, I graduated from UNM in 1993, and this is interesting. I had decided that I was done with the United States. I was done with the I wouldn't even say hypocrisy because that's too cliche. But I was done. I was going to go to Europe, and I was going to get lost in Europe. I went through 6 countries in 6 months. I actually had a job in Germany for a while that actually paid pretty good. But the one thing I noticed in Germany while I was working there, the hours were like, God, 6 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon. Some odd, hardcore German doctrine like that. But one thing that I had noticed is while I was sitting in the wine, I was in a town called Bonigheim, which was actually their main industry, if you will, was wine. It was in the German Rhineland. It was right around the Black Forest. It was very pretty. And grapes were it, man. Grapes were king. Wine was king. And while that seems like it would be very picturesque, which of course it was every bit that, it was one thing I noticed when I worked there, I worked in what they called an electrotech factory, which in hindsight was really nothing more than a factory that was built to produce anything. Because the stuff that I saw go in front of me was varied. One thing that I did notice, though, is that after a period of time of working there, that I was, of course, a cute little foreigner, and that's not a bad thing. It was a new thing. But also that after a period of time, the same drudgery that I had experienced in the United States crept right back into my existence in Germany. The 6:30 to 2:30 or 3 o'clock, Monday through Friday, weekends off, dreading going back to work on Monday, came right sweeping back to me. And I came to a conclusion sitting in Bonigheim in a bar called the Waterworks while drinking shots of Sahara tequila, which is a contradiction in and of itself, that I was living the same life but in a different place, in a far different place. My surroundings, if I open my eyes objectively, were very different. My internal view, whatever you want to call it, was exactly the same. I had carried it over the Atlantic and nothing had changed. So, based on that point, or based at that moment, I put in my whatever notice, finished work at the end of the month, cashed my paycheck, and headed straight to Prague, Czechoslovakia, of course, where I quit smoking. Not sure what that really has to do with anything. The only thing I can say is I was running. I had my head so deep in art while I was at the University of New Mexico, more specifically painting, that I had apprenticed actually with a local artist there whose name was Arthur Sussman. He fancies himself as a biblical painter. And the reason I say that is because he trademarked himself as a biblical painter. Yet, living in Albuquerque, New Mexico, he always had a nice little stable of Indian paintings that he called blue feather, blue something paintings. Anyway, Arthur Sussman was a Jewish man. He was a very nice fellow. He, for some reason, I went into a gallery and I had heard of him. And I had just quit my job at the bookstore at UNM, my work study job. I was still in school. But I quit my job under the assumption that The only way to make it in the art world is to starve. God knows I did my share of starving. But anyway, I was working at a, good Lord, it was some sort of ceramics, paint your own ceramics, horrendous soccer mom, housewife, ceramic, slip, pottery, whatever, factory. Well, the soccer moms came in in droves, painted pottery, gave it to you to fire in the kiln. You fired it, you gave it back to them, and they went home just happy as clams at the art that they had created. Anyway, I was working in this place, sweeping the floors, sweeping all the clay slip off the floors, which of course was nothing more than a very fine powder. And I had sold my car and sold my motorcycle. I had a motorcycle. Then I had run under a couple of guardrails and decided I didn't want a motorcycle anymore. But I had to take the bus, and I always had to walk by Arthur's studio gallery thing, which is very much a working studio gallery. It was his hangout. It was nothing more than what we have right here, but more storefronty. Yep, storefront. Anyway, in walking by there several times to go sweep the floor at the pottery factory, I stopped in one day, and I don't know how it happened or why it happened, but we just started talking. Now bear in mind, Arthur has kind of a reputation in Albuquerque for being a real dickhead. You know, the real snooty, moody artist stuff, but for some reason we clicked. And Arthur was very adept at marketing. Marketing himself, more specifically, as an artist. I would say, in hindsight, of course, that his marketing tactics were dated, circa 60s, 70s. But he had an audience, and his audience was older, like Arthur was, and so it seemed to work for him. But more specifically, I kind of entered into a very informal apprenticeship with Arthur. I would take my art in to him. This is while I was still in school. And Arthur would critique it. But more specifically, I didn't get as much out of the critiques because I'm sitting here trying to remember any one critique, and I remember a few, but I don't remember anything that was said. But what I do remember was Arthur had a marketing mind to him, and I was very drawn to the concept of an artist marketing himself versus waiting for, you know, the Guggenheim bust to break down in front of your house slash studio slash roommate slash pot house slash party house, whatever. And it became very clear to me in talking with Arthur that if an artist is going to somehow make a living off of this, and Arthur did make a living off of this, a decent living. I wouldn't say he was not a rich man. His influence probably never really got outside of Albuquerque, New Mexico, but what he had in Albuquerque was good for Arthur. He made a good living. He paid off his house, put his kids through school, blah, 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 and he did it all, for the most part, through paint. He dabbled in teaching, dabbled in, God, he was even dabbled in courtroom drawings. But the man had a marketing mind, and more, I would say the most specific, the most enduring concept I got from Arthur and my meetings, apprenticeship, is what I like to call it.
Even